Every day for the last year, I have practiced my art, and I would like to share some of my creations with you guys. Last year, I did a similar video of sculpting every day for a year and going through all my art and seeing how I progressed through that year. Last year, I did a lot of digital stuff and not so much clay art. This year, last year, whatever you want to call it, I didn't do too much 3D stuff, but I did a lot of clay work, a lot of mold making and stuff like that, sculptures in clay. So it's not going to be as much artwork because 3D, doesn't take as long as actually sculpting something in clay, but I did a pretty good amount of that. So I'd like to share what I've made last year up until now to you guys. Brenda the Bog Witch. Now this giant sculpture is done in monster clay. Now this was like an old sculpture I started years ago. It was supposed to be something of like practicing anatomy, of a female character, kind of like a figure sculpting, like a pose. And I had blocked in like these thighs and some of the body. And I realized, you know what, I wanted to do like a creature. So I kind of just built off what I did and I came up with this weird looking, I don't know what we call it, bog witchy character. I gave her some big old claw right there, as you can see, to swipe her enemies. And then she's carrying like this kind of like club with her forearms that are split into two hands here. And we've got these pincers coming out. And then the hair is just like little strands of clay. I thought that gave it a pretty cool look. Now this is a figure that, I work on and off on. So it's not quite done yet. There's a lot of proportional issues that I would like to fix now looking at it, like the thighs and the bubs right there, and the torso. Mainly those areas. I'm trying to go for like a Dead Space kind of vibe with this one. And I really love like the long neck and the open mouth and like the pincers and how this really turned out. Still working on it, but I thought I'd share it, and she also has like this massive spine that's coming out. Maybe it's like a transformation thing, got infected or something. Not too sure of the story on this one yet, but, we're still working on it. But yeah, Brenda the Bog Witch. At the end of my other video I did last year, I showed you a sculpt that I was working on, a full face mask, and this is how that sculpture turned out. Now I made it into a latex mask. It's a Wendigo right here, if you can see. This is a full face mask. Pretty happy with how it turned out. Paint job's pretty cool. And yeah, so the horns are sculpted from foam clay, or the antlers I should say. Same with these little things right here. And the hair, white fibrous hairs off Amazon I got. I think the white was a nice contrast to like the purpley skin. I would repaint this now, knowing color theory a bit more, and I'd make this a little bit darker. Maybe do like a nice wash to make the red or the gory bits pop out a bit more. But yeah, I made this dude, and I was him for Halloween, and it scared a lot of people, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, this is a full mask you can wear over your head if you want to. Here is a little fish man inspired by the creature from the Black Lagoon. I sculpted out of dollar store clay. This was like a speed sculpt I did. Took me, I don't know, like 2.5 hours. I was just kind of fiddling around with the dollar store clay that I bought. And you know what? It's not terrible clay. It's still holding up. It does crumble a bit. I've had it crumble on other pieces and some parts falling off, but other than that, this piece has been holding up pretty good. And there are some things I would change about it now, but back then, last year, I was very happy with it, and I'm still pretty happy with it. I like how it looks, but I kind of wish I did him in green clay. I think he would have looked a lot cooler, but again, just a little speed sculpt of my take on the creature from the Black Lagoon. Kind of got inspired by some of those catfish you see, right? You can see like the little whiskers, things like that. But yeah, pretty cool. I have a video up of me sculpting him. I believe. Check it out if you want to. And yeah, this was the fish man. This isn't in any particular order. I can't really remember the orders I sculpted all this in, but you know, this is just like the stuff I did last year. So here is one called Gizmo the Franken-Thumb right here. So I sculpted this dude out of monster clay again. This one, he's a latex prop, monster prop, as you can see, foam filled to make him nice and squishy. But yeah, sculpted from monster clay, big old Franken-Thumb. I had to refix the brain here a little bit, but once we paint him, all this will be covered up and he'll be seamless. And I really, really dig this one. This was one of my favorites I did last year. Very happy with it. He will be part of my live stream once I get him all painted up. He'll be like a character, and you can puppet him. I mean, he's foam filled. This one is because he's like the master copy, but you can puppet him, and you can like move his mouth and all that. And I do have another copy of him where you can put your hand up in there and move the mouth and wiggle the tongue around. But yeah, this probably took me a couple of weeks on and off, you know. And you know, looking from the back, it looks like a scrotum. And a lot of people thought I was sculpting a scrotum at the time, but he is a thumb. He's a Franken-Thumb. And we got stitch seams here that resembles different, you know, skin pieces put together. And once he's painted, I'll cut off some like a little rope and stick him in between these bumps right here, which is like the skin being pushed together. So it'll look like he's sewn up at the seams here. And yeah, that is Gizmo the Franken-Thumb. One of my favorites. On to the next one. All right, so I got a couple sculptures right here. Smaller stuff that I did last year on stream. Just little concept designs. So let's start with this one. So this one is like a parasitic kind of worm sculpted from monster clay. Some of the areas are kind of squished, but he has these tendrils that latch into the back of your brain. So he's like really small, and he burrows under the skin up to the back of your head, and these kind of like latch into the brain, and then this thing can kind of control you. He's part of the Eldritch Chronicles, a world building project that I'm doing. So this is just a concept piece, and in the future I will be making quite a bigger version of this guy, which he'll be all latex and stuff. But this is the concept for him, just something quick and fun to do. Out of monster clay. Now a lot of these are made from monster clay. This one is another concept I did. I would like to turn this dude into a full kind of big maquette statue. So I sculpted him small, and this will be a big maquette. He's kind of like a fish dude. You can see kind of like the fish hands there, little crab leg like body and chest. And this dude kind of like walks on the bottom. He's kind of like a kaiju. He'll be very big, very tall. And I'll probably sculpt him out of polymer clay, the bigger version, so I can paint him and, you know, keep a copy of him. But yeah, this was like something I did over the night, I don't know, last year. Something fun, you know, watching a horror movie, and I just did this dude. And yeah, I really liked how he turned out. The base is just a plastic cap from a cat litter box. So that's what I did. And then I stuffed a little armature up his butt. Same thing with this dude. This was a quick concept. He's covered in that very fine hair from the monster mask. But this one, you know, little robot snake. I was practicing some hard surface stuff. I didn't really spend too much time on this guy. He was very quick and dirty. But, you know, he's okay. He's okay. So this guy is made from alien clay, not monster clay. So there's another type of clay called alien clay done by Chavant. And, you know, I had a sampler pack and played around with the clay. And it's very similar to monster clay, except that it's darker with the gray version. And you know what? It's good clay. I actually really liked it. This dude I did on stream, just like a little, you know, little head bust of big brained creature monster with very, very sharp teeth. Yeah, he's just something quick and dirty I did. A little head sculpt I did. I really like doing these miniature heads. You know, it's a lot of fun just to practice. and it can be fairly quick or fairly long, depending how much time you want to put into it. He was going to be the head for another sculpture I'll be showing in a bit, but I decided to go a different route with him. But I like the head a lot, so I decided to bake him out. This is done in polymer clay, so he's tough. Or no, not polymer clay, Cos clay. Yeah, I think he's Cos clay. So it's almost like a rubber. So if you drop him, he's not going to break or shatter like Sculpey would. But it's done in Cos clay, and I'll probably paint him. Just a little something to practice, sculpting, and then a good idea to practice painting on as well. So this little bit of a creature head right there. I did do some 3D stuff last year. This guy was sculpted in ZBrush, but I 3D printed him out. I call him the Sniffer because he has a big nose. He's just like a kind of like an alien creature. Primed him up, and I will paint him. Haven't gotten around to it yet, but he turned out really well. It's honestly kind of like an experiment to try and see how my 3D printer would print something like this, and I'm pretty surprised of the detail that it printed. You can still see like the lines and all that, but again, this is just for me to see how it printed, and then I'm gonna paint him up so I can practice my painting. This guy, I sculpted this dude. Where is this? There we go. I sculpted this guy in monster clay, and then I 3D scanned him and then 3D printed him out just so I can save on clay and then keep him forever in that way, right? So I I really loved the Fallout show last year, and I want to do my own interpretation of like a Fallout character. So I came up with like this mutated kind of freak looking guy, mutated eyeball, big old hillbilly gums at the front. His neck is bending backwards because his brain's so heavy, and in here it's supposed to go like these broken crutches that hold his head up. He's so smart, has such a big brain. He lives in like the radiated fields, or I don't know, somewhere where there's radiation, hence why he looks like this. And I was able to get like a lot of great detail using a wax pen for like these veins in his head, and then in his chest and all that. I did 3D scan him, and I cleaned him up again in ZBrush just because 3D scans can be a little bit garbage. So I had to go in there and fix some stuff. But yeah, this was sculpted in monster clay and 3D printed out. Gotta paint this guy too, but yeah, he was one of my favorite pieces that I did, just to practice my anatomy and stuff like that. I don't have a name for him though. Mr. Fallout? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, pretty cool. So another guy I did last year, 3D printed. I sculpted him in ZBrush, and he is printed in 3 parts, right? And he's like Gluttony, so he has a mouth here, mouth there, kind of like a fat, swollen eye as well. But I really liked him, so I printed him out in kind of like a full scale. And the idea this year is to try a new method of, painting on some oil-based clay, melting it down and painting it on, and then re-sculpting him in clay so I can turn him into a mask. So, yeah. I think his name's Gluttony, something like that. He's pretty big, pretty roly-poly, fat, and I'm very excited to try out a different kind of method into sculpting. So it'll be kind of like sketching, right? And paint on the clay, but just thin enough so we can still see all the detail, and then rebuild that detail in clay, and and then make a mold of him. But yeah, this took like a very long time to print. I can't even think of it, like maybe like 2 weeks or something. It was something crazy. But yeah, it was Gluttony, and I can't wait to try out that new method. Okay, so this guy, he is a puppet that he'll be used for a miniature set. He's like a tree. His eyes are resin painted, and as you can see, drill some holes in the back. So I'll be putting some tongs back here, so we'll be able to move the eyes from the back. So you'll have some articulated eyes, be able to move the mouth, make him talk. He's just like an old eldritch giant tree dude. Made from latex, sculpted in monster clay. The eyes, I've never painted eyes before. That, you know, they're just okay. Not too fond of the paint job, but I will be practicing more painting skills this year. Methinks, but the paint job, I like the paint job. It has like this green moss kind of showing up, kind of like building up around here, which we'll be filling in with some actual fake moss, right? And then up here as well, maybe make like a fake little bird or something up there as well. But yeah, this is for like a little miniature set that I'm building for stream, and he'll be a character that will be able to talk. Don't have a name for him yet, so if you have a name for this guy, let me know. I'm having issues with trying to come up with a name for him. But on to the next one. On to the next one. Okay, so this one was my first mask I did. After the full mask I did, right? This was the next one I did. He was sculpted in wet clay, W-E-D. It's like a water-based clay. And then made like a stone mold and cast him in latex, as you can see. And he's just a half mask, just for display. And I really love how he turned out. I wanted to make him like an ogre, like a green ogre, with some kind of like a skin pattern or birthmark with the purple going around. And the blood is like a gel, a Liquitex gel that you can get mixed with red food coloring. And it makes a cool, like, little blood gory effect. So it's got these big tusks, and then like a broken one there. And he's just for display, like I said. And the eyeballs, not too bad, you know, just pretty simple. For the eyes, to make them look wet, I use 5-minute epoxy. So you don't want to like bend him, or else it could crack. But it's just to make those eyes look, you know, wet and gross, like eyes. And yeah. This is probably one of my favorite pieces from last year. Had a lot of fun painting him with the airbrush, doing some different painting techniques. You can see like the skin, different colors of like the greens and the yellows, and some purples, reds. And once I get my website up, I'll be painting a couple more copies and selling them on there. So keep an eye out for Chonk the troll. Yeah, he's a troll, not an ogre. Did I say ogre? He's a troll, not an ogre. But yeah, half mask, just for display. So this is a recent full mask that I sculpted and molded. It's a Cthulhu inspired, as you can see. I haven't even trimmed him up yet. I haven't even trimmed off the flashing yet, so he's very raw. But yeah, so let's see if I can get a good picture here. So he's Cthulhu inspired, kind of like a squid creature. He has like a tentacle tongue coming up underneath his gums, nose, and poking out his eye and scratching his temple, right? And then up in here, kind of has like this crown going on, which makes him like the king of the sea. And with this sculpture, I had a lot of fun with it, actually. He was sculpted in wet clay. I love wet clay when it comes to making masks. Just easy to build up and fun to work with. And I did some fun little scale textures on the top here, with kind of like back here you'll see like this fin wrapping down and around like that. Back here you can see it better, right? It's got like these fins. The flashing's kind of hiding it, so I got to cut that off. And you know, I like my characters chunky and a lot of rolls. I got to fix this part up though. Some of the mold, some of the detail came off in the mold, so I will have to fix this. But there's only a few areas to fix and clean up, and I'm very happy with how he turned out. I don't have a name for him either. He's very fresh, and I'm very happy with how he turned out. And this one, well, you'll be able to wear on your head fully. And I got to think of a paint scheme to come up with. I'm thinking like gray, blue, purple kind of idea, you know, something like aquatic. But yeah, very, very happy with him and how he turned out. So this guy is actually not made out of clay or latex, but foam. So last year I tried to do some foam sculpting, and it was so messy. Oh my god, it was just so much mess and so much foam everywhere. But it's a monster skull. It was pretty enjoyable to do, to be honest with you. Let's see if I can give a better view. He is pretty big, pretty massive. Painted him up. I learned a lot about foam sculpting and how I don't want to do it again. So for you who do sculpt out of foam, I commend you because this was a challenge. The sealer that I used is cracking, but still holding up. Usually you could use like foam sculpting tools, but all I had was like saws and X-Acto knives, and it took a very, very long time, much longer than I thought it would. On to another kind of figure full sculpture. This was just a personal project I was working on and off last year for like months. Sculpted from clay, and I'm very happy with how he turned out. I was thinking of like Silent Hill type vibe. Honestly, I wanted to work on something to practice my anatomy for like the legs and of course like the arms and everything. And I find doing people and figures just like really tedious and boring to practice anatomy on. So to make it more enjoyable for myself, I'll usually just, start to make creatures, right? So this one took months because, I was working on and off. He has a giant butt crack because I thought it was gross. He has big poops. He has this face on the back, right, growing out that wraps all the way around with the mouth, all the way around to the front, as you can see, with a big old tongue slithering out. I did have the tongue shorter, but I didn't like how it looked. There wasn't enough movement, so I made the tongue longer. It did crack a bit. Or is it? Yeah, right there. It did crack a little bit, but I glued it back together. And then once I paint it, you probably won't see it, hopefully. But I did have a mistake with this is I built the whole thing out of clay. Usually you want to do it in layers when you're working with polymer clay. You lay it out, bake it, and then you build on top of that, bake it some more, and you keep building it up. Well, this dude, it was like all clay, so I had to bake him for a while. He's he might be a little bit over baked, which is fine because he's just for me anyways. But yeah, he's got like one big eyeball, a bunch of tiny ones on the side there. Don't have a name for him yet either. There is a pattern with me and not naming my my creatures, but I'll figure something out. Maybe I call him Mr. Crack or something. Yeah, very inspired by Silent Hill and some Resident Evil stuff. As you can see, his toes gripping onto the block because there wasn't enough room to sculpt the feet bigger. And he just has this pose like he's leaning to one side, claws out, just slowly walking towards his victim because he's looking mighty hungry right there. Oh, yes. And I don't know, different take on a Cyclops as well. And again, he's not done because I still have to paint him. And I'm just waiting for a new airbrush to come. And then I will paint him and, I don't know, post the results on Instagram. But yeah, I am very happy with this guy. My favorite piece from last year is this guy, Mr. Crab Daddy, or I call him the Jarro. He is made out of Sculpey Primo. And this this guy took a very long time to sculpt. Let me just do a full turn around here, as you can see. So he is crab-like, humanoid. He is a giant kaiju-like creature. I even did like a base. My first base I did, kind of mimicking like the bottom of an ocean on a different planet. My God, I really gotta like put some WD-40 on this thing. I sculpted him out of Primo Sculpey. I did a course on doing like creatures and monsters for film and TV, and everything I learned in that course I applied to this and the last one I did. But this was the first thing I took to final process of sculpting and painting, using airbrush techniques and dry brush techniques, and all the different kind of painting techniques as well. There are some cracks on him and like the arms and stuff, just because I used the wrong wire for this guy, and I didn't realize how long his arms are going to be, and because he also has like these big claws on the very end, so it does give it some weight issues. And of course the clay is over baked because I used a heat gun to actually bake him out. Sculpted the body separately, the pincers separately, and then the head separately. And this creature is for the Eldritch Chronicles, the world building series that I'm doing on my channel. It's gonna be like kind of like an analog horror thing, featuring just creatures and stuff like that. So this is one of them. He's got like these egg sacs right here on the bottom, veins running into the eggs. These are silicone little rubber balls that I sculpted in there and then coated in 5-minute epoxy just to stick them in there and make them look wet. The green stuff here is kind of like seeping out. He like shoots out this like really high pressured like green steam sludge stuff, so I wanted that dripping down a bit. His mouth as well, I just used green paint and some Liquitex gel stuff and just used some cotton to make like a little gross driblet in his mouth. The eyes are beads, just like plastic beads. He has these like little vents on his forehead as well, and little tusks. And then you can see the cracks in the arm just because of the weight of the arms. He's got like this big shell on the back as well. He's very colorful, very poisonous as well. And he's a kaiju. He's very freaking big, right? This one took me weeks to make, but it was so much fun. I did this one proper with the polymer clay where you would, build it up in layers. And if I would have baked him in the oven, he probably wouldn't be overbaked, but he was just so big. I couldn't fit him in my oven because he was just so big, so massive. So I just used the heat gun and just, baked him pretty quickly. And since, he's for myself, I just and for my portfolio, I was okay using the heat gun. This was a lot of fun. I did the posing and everything, and he's definitely probably my favorite piece I have done ever. So far, I should say so far. But yeah, the Jarro, or Crab Daddy as we like to call him. And that's pretty much everything I sculpted last year. Not showing any 3D stuff because I didn't really do too much 3D last year. I've fallen in love with just working with my hands and clay, and that's been a lot more enjoyable than just using ZBrush or Nomad Sculpt. So I've taken some time away from that. Although the pieces I did show you of the Fallout guy and the sniffer, those were done. Well, one was done in ZBrush and the other was cleaned up in ZBrush. But so that was probably like the only time I really used ZBrush last year. Looking at how I progressed from the previous year to now, I'm pretty happy with. I'm getting more comfortable with like doing anatomy stuff. I would like to practice more on faces, of course. Faces are like the hardest part of probably any art. So my goal for this year is to do like more head busts and humanoid type creatures, or even maybe like hyper realism sculpt of a face. That's a whole other thing, but that could be a fun challenge. And I think it's very important when you're doing art to challenge yourself, kind of get yourself out of the comfort zone and doing something that you don't normally do. That's how you improve, right? Those are the things I sculpted last year. Let me know which one of those was your favorite. And of course, if you got any names for the ones I mentioned, leave a comment down below. And if you got any questions, maybe you want to get into sculpting, or maybe you're sculpting already and you just want some advice, I'd be happy to, talk to you. So leave a comment, let me know. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.